This is Pod Populi, podcasts for the people.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Connector. Doesn't every great opportunity in life begin with a single conversation? I am your connector, Arielle Leavitt. Networking, making introductions, and bringing people together from all walks of life to engage, learn, share, and grow is my passion. In this podcast, we dive into the people that are behind the community and connection and have them share with us how they built their business using community and people in their own back pocket. I'm so excited to be with you guys today because you and my guest today. I'm going to give a little background information. As you guys know, I like to do this with my guests and how I connected with them and what happened. So I was looking for, I wasn't really looking for. I was on Facebook and I see this in the group. Someone posted like, who makes the best challah? And challah is like a traditional bread you eat on Friday night if you're Jewish. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to follow this because like I want some good bread, or whatever. So I start following and people keep writing like Boca Sourdough, Boca Sourdough, Boca Sourdough. I was like, who is Boca Sourdough? And I live in Boca. So like, let's see what this is all about. So I like click on the link to like go to the next part. And I see, okay, Boca Sourdough is like all about sourdough, but then also like sourdough challah. And sourdough I hear is like supposed to be so good for your digestive system. So I'm like, okay, let me get into this. Like, let's start reaching out. And she's in Boca, so she's got to be close. So like we can figure this out. So I messaged her on Instagram. We figured it out. I got some sourdough and OMG, you guys, it is so good. Like I was like, okay, like I've had other people homemade sourdough or whatever. And it was like, it's really, really good. And I have problems sometimes digesting gluten and different things. Anyways, so I tried the sourdough and I was like, oh my gosh, I can eat this. My stomach does not feel like distended afterwards. And I'm like not feeling like lethargic. Sometimes that can happen after you eat like bread or carbs or whatever. This is amazing. I need to know more. And so not only did I need to know more, but I needed to bring her on the podcast. So you guys can all hear about sourdough and just as a business owner and what she does. So Jade Man is with me today, who is Boca Sourdough and on Instagram. Okay, hi Jade.
Hi, how are you?
So
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, this is so good.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, and so like you started Boca Sourdough, which I love. Like you title labeled it Boca Sourdough. So like people know where you're located, where they can get you.
And we're all about sourdough.
Yes. So like I am a foodie and I like I'm obsessed with watching your Instagram because it's just so much fun seeing what you create and how you come up with things and and then it's just like it looks so beautiful and like
oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I just kind of shared with everybody a little bit like why I love sourdough so much personally and like I would love to, like, I want you guys, like, when we started talking, you were like, well, I got into it 1.5 years ago, right? And because your family needed it, or like, what was that? Yeah.
Well, I actually used to make bread with a bread machine, but I never really loved it. Like my husband bought me this like Breville bread machine and you would throw everything in and the bread came out, but it wasn't like amazing. I started making bread because I have 3 kids. We're a family of 5 and we love bread. Like we just love good bread. So I was always looking for good bread. Publix, I did not like their bread. I used to buy some other breads from like Whole Foods that would get hard on the counter, like a sourdough. It wouldn't last. I used to go all over looking for like a good, heavy, like just good bread that wasn't like a cracker or cardboard. So we also go through a lot of bread, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We love eating it. So I was like, let me start trying to make sourdough. I was always scared to, when I heard of the starter, I was like, what is this? Like I heard of people doing it, like you have to feed it and all this. I already have like 3 kids to feed and I had babies now, they're very close in age. They're getting bigger now. But, and I got it from a neighbor and I tried to feed it and I was like, I don't know if I could do this. So then I stopped for a little and then I got it again and I was like, I'm going to do this. So I started making the bread and it took me a while to like perfect it. And then I just started making it like religiously, like every day, and feeding the starter, making the dough, and yeah.
So it's trial and error because, like, as you're saying this, like the starter, like I know you have to feed it and you have to make sure it stays
healthy and active. So it's just all it is just flour and water. So you would think it's like simple, but it's not. It's like a complete science. Like if the temperature in your kitchen is cold or too hot, that affects the starter. If the measurements, like everything affects it, like the environment. So yes, it has to ferment. It has to sit for a few hours until it's actually ready to bake with. So it does take time. You have to feed it once a day. For me, I have found that if you feed it every day, it stays healthy. Some people don't feed it every day and then they have to put it in the fridge and then you take it out, but it's a complete science. So
it's like another pet.
It's like having another pet or a child, but it's become part of my life now and my routine. So I figured out when to feed it, when to use it.
Do you feel like tied to it a little bit, even though I know you love doing this, but do you feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't create today or do something, like I'm gonna, like this is
like I'm like, I'm not gonna bake today, and I'll take like a day off, and then I start getting this like itch, like I have to go and feed my starter and start baking. Like I've become like obsessed with doing it. So I do it, all the time, every day I'm baking. I love it.
I mean, in perfecting sourdough, I did not realize like there's so much to go into it, because yours lasts.
Yes.
Like I thought I was so nervous the next day. Like, so I bought it, like I got it fresh from you. We ate it that day and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. But tomorrow is probably going to be like stale.
Yeah.
And I ate it the next day and I'm like, wait a minute, this is not stale. And it tastes like exactly as if it just came out of the oven. Like, what the heck?
So because all it is flour, salt, and water. I mean, it's 3 ingredients. Nobody can believe that's all it is. It's like flour, salt, and water in the bread. And because of the water content, it's so like moist inside, right? And it does last. Like we've had it on the counter for like 5 days and it does not get moldy. It doesn't go bad. I stored it in a bread box, but if you put it in a Ziploc or Tupperware, it stays fresh. It's really amazing. Like other bread, there's no preservatives in it. There's nothing in it. No enriched flour. It's just, bread flour, salt,
and I
water.
do love that you mentioned to me that you use King Arthur flour.
Yes, I use the bread flour, the King Arthur flour. It's the best for sourdough. And, everybody is loving the bread. So I started making it because I was making it for my family and friends. And then one of my friend's sister kept asking, like, can I get a bread? Can I get a bread? I want to buy it from you. And I'm like, no, like here. And I was making it for everybody. And then she's like, no, I want to buy it from you. So I was like a little nervous to start an Instagram and to even put it online, because I was like, what if I get so busy? Like, what am I going to do? So I made an account. I started posting, and it just it took off. Like it was crazy. And it is. And it's amazing. And I love it. And I'm so happy.
Talk about word of mouth and connection, right? Like that chain, that ripple effect that happens.
Yes.
And how it just is like, one person telling another person, another person, because no one's Googling you really. I don't think, like, you're not Googleable.
No, I like that I'm doing it my way, and I'm like very like kind of old school. Like, I like to talk to everybody who messages me and have like a relationship with them, instead of having like an order form. Like they can speak to me and ask me what kind of breads I make and everything about it. Like I like to build a relationship with like my customers, and now I have people coming like you.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like
and all the time, and then like I become friends with them, and then people are ordering for other people. People love to gift the bread, and then I get more word of mouth. So I was never worried about how people are going to find me, because I know that my bread's so good.
Yeah, and
it is, and that people just keep wanting to buy more.
It's amazing that you did that like proof of concept, and I want to get into that with businesses in just a second. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. Are you lost about a breakup, separated, wondering if you're with the right person, constantly breaking up and getting back together? then you need a love clairvoyant. Yes, psychic Susan Weston has been offering psychic readings for nearly 3 decades. She is a master psychic and love expert, focusing on relationships, marriage, soulmates, twin flames, and toxic dating patterns. She has a true, authentic, intuitive gift passed down from generations to generations. She not only reads love connections with amazing accuracy, she helps reunite, heal, and bond lovers and partners from removing the barriers to happiness and long-lasting love. She can also deal with issues relating to family, business, finance, and children, and more. So call now for a free mini reading with Susan Weston, Westin, at 480-318-2106, or visit psychicsusanweston.com. Mention promo code podcast so she knows where we sent you. Okay, so we're coming back to this because I want to talk about, as a business owner and like starting that whole journey, it's scary putting yourself out there.
Yes.
And that's like, it's scary. You're vulnerable, right? Like, are people really going to love what you do? And so you started with like just, kind of like beta testing, right?
Yeah.
Like you were like, okay, I actually do have a good product that people want. After you gave away a couple of breads for, you're just like, get me feedback, right?
Yeah.
You were just looking for feedback. And then once it was validated, you're like, okay, I can really do this.
Yes.
And doesn't it feel like
it's crazy because I'm like in my kitchen, it's called a cottage bakery or a micro bakery. And I'm using everything that I have in my kitchen, like my Dutch oven, my measuring cups, like the water from salt and everything. And I have a small oven and I've been baking breads for everybody. And it is crazy because everyone keeps saying, oh, you're going to have to get like a bakery or open a bakery. Like my kitchen is my bakery. And that's the most amazing part about it. Like I can be home with my family and, have my business at home and, keep producing breads.
Yeah.
And it just makes me so happy that I get to share, my breads with everybody else because we were just like enjoying it ourselves. And I kept saying, I'm like the best feeling is getting the feedback. Like, how people will eat my bread in one day, or like they eat the half a loaf sitting in my driveway. A lot of people are like, I am in my car, in my driveway, and I just like started breaking the bread apart. Like it makes me the happiest that I get to share this with everybody.
Yeah. And I love that you've like kind of like fallen into this.
Yeah.
It's not something that you were like really seeking out.
No.
You were just really seeking out a healthier alternative for your family. And then taking this on, you're like, okay, I think I can do this. Like, this seems like doable.
I do love the kitchen. So I've always I cook every night. I make healthy meals. I love, having people over and doing, all of that. So for me, it's like it has been
like
a natural thing and easy because I'm always in the kitchen. Like that is my hobby, like the kitchen.
It is really funny. Like people are obsessed with food videos. Like,
yes.
Like when you like are mixing in the ingredients, and I love like when you're adding, like you've now become a little bit more creative with your like. First, you're just doing plain, right?
Plain, regular.
Yeah. And then now you're like, okay, so you do like olive and za'atar, and you've done like cinnamon raisin and
cranberry walnut.
Yeah.
I basically do what anyone asks me to do. Somebody asked me if I can do a chocolate chip loaf. I'm like, sure. Somebody asked me if I can do, the cinnamon raisin, like whatever anyone wants, I'm willing to try and make it for them because if they can't find it in the store, I'm going to make it for them. And they want this healthy 3-ingredient bread. The best feeling is knowing that somebody bought my bread from me and her husband was able to eat my bread and his blood sugar did not rise. Like he wore it, like it's good for your gut. It's low glycemic index. There's only 3 ingredients in it. And it's really changing people's lives. Like you said, like for you too.
I mean, that is such a huge thing. And that's like the newest, hottest, I want to say like buzzword right now that's coming out. Maybe like 2025, it might be a little like, well, this episode's releasing in 2025. So guys, so in 2025, it's like the buzzword is like low glycemic and like and blood sugar levels, because I feel like more doctors are kind of like becoming more aware of this and like really what the foods we're eating and raising our blood sugar levels and how that's like what's happening with that. And the fact that this is not doing that, because like white potatoes do that. They raise your blood sugar. And then like some breads, obviously, or a lot of breads like will raise it because of the how it breaks down in your system. And the fact that we can eat bread now, and like, you guys, I've never been so obsessed about bread before until like I met you now. Like, I'm like,
because this is real bread. I mean, it's got the lactobacillus, which is all the healthy, bacteria that is actually good for your stomach, and it's helping a lot of people.
so it's like almost taking like a probiotic.
Yes. Because the flour and the water ferments, and then it becomes active, and I mean, it just makes that bread rise, and it's really, really good for you. I mean, I eat it for every meal. Nobody in my family is gaining weight from it.
That's amazing.
It's better than any other bread that you can buy in the store.
Yeah, and I love how it's just so fun that you like really are listening to your customers too.
Yeah.
And taking that into consideration. But I want to just shine light on all of this too, that you are not just making sourdough. Like you said, you're a mom of 3 kids. Your husband owns a vet clinic here in Boca, and you manage and run his, I'm
the office manager at Boca Midtown Animal Hospital. So I do that, and I have my 3 kids, and then I make the sourdough. Yeah. And I love it.
Which is a lot
It's
to
a lot.
balance.
It is a lot.
And like the fact that you find time to do it. And you said to me one time, because like I'm like, again, I said I'm obsessed with your Instagram and watching it. I'm like, what is she creating now? Like, oh, you made sourdough bagels. Oh, you're making sourdough buns. Like what are you coming up with? And you said to me, you're like, I'm not doing this all day. Like, this is just a small part, because if you have to let it rise, and you have to so you're like, I get to do other things.
Right.
And I was like, what? You're not interviewing?
Yeah, because I think like some people think I'm just like at my house doing it all day based on my videos, but no, it doesn't take me all day. The sourdough process is 2 days. You make the dough the day before. You do have to let it rise. When you make the dough, there's like a whole procedure. You have to stretch and fold it every 30 minutes. It takes about 3.5 hours, I've got it down to make my dough, and then to put it in the bannetons, and then they go in the fridge overnight to ferment. And then you bake, I bake them whenever I can the next day. So, so I'm busy
you're not,
with
like, totally
my
tied
kids.
to it.
No, I work at the office during the day. I take care of everything else, and then I usually start my dough in the afternoon into the night and get up early in the morning and start baking.
It's kind of a nice thing for people to like be able to also do it themselves. Like,
yes.
And I know it's intimidating, obviously, with a starter. Like I've seen people, during the pandemic, it was all about banana bread, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody was baking banana bread, which is such a weird like thing to like, I don't know why banana bread was like the pandemic choice. But then a lot of people, I think, got into sourdough.
Because they were home.
Yeah. And a lot of people kept saying, like, my starter's failed. This has failed. And, like, it's not easy. Like, you make it sound like it's so easy.
Oh, it's not easy. It took me a while to perfect it. It's not easy, but anybody can do it. You just have to be committed. Like if you love the kitchen, or even if you don't love the kitchen, if if you want to do it, you can. You just have to keep doing it. Don't give up. That's what I think. Like you just have to just keep doing it.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
You don't have to be like a cook or a baker. You just have to be dedicated to it. And if you want to do it.
It's so funny. So my brother said to me, he's like, you're loving eating sourdough. Why don't you take it on?
Yeah, you can. I can teach you.
It's so sweet. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to think of I'm like, it's so easy to just get the bread from you.
It's always easier.
Yeah. And I'm just like, to think about like committing myself to it in a way. Like, I'm like, that's why I don't have a pet right now, because I'm like, I just don't want to like, well,
it is a commitment.
It's a commitment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, then I feel like also like, I don't want to let down the sourdough. Like then I can't do it. And like, I failed the sourdough. Like with an animal, I'm out so many days a week that I just like, don't want to, put an animal in that position where they're alone. Yeah. It's not fair.
It's the same thing with the starter. You don't want to neglect your starter. But anybody can definitely do it if you really want to, But
what would you recommend to people like starting out doing this, if they were like, okay, I think I want to take on this commitment and do it?
Just read. Like I went to the library and I took out books. Like I took out a sourdough book.
Really?
Yes. I read blogs. I watched other people's videos.
So
I researched.
Did you YouTube?
I watched YouTube. I read a lot. I mean, you have to try different methods, and everybody has a different method. Everybody has a different ratio that they're measuring for their flour and water. Some some people have a warmer, some people put it in the microwave, some people put it like in a spot in their kitchen. I mean, everyone does something different, but it works for them. So you just have to experiment, and you have to just, I can teach somebody what to do, but what works for me may not work for somebody else. Like I taught my mom how to do it, and it took her like almost a year to get it down.
Really?
Yeah. So if you want to start out, I recommend getting a kitchen scale. Do not use measuring cups. You need a scale. That is like my number one. You have to measure with a kitchen scale.
It's interesting.
Yes.
Most bakers kind of say like the scale thing.
The scale is like key. And then just, figuring out what ratio works for you.
That is, yeah, no, it's funny because like even just baking cookies or whatever, it's so important to like get a scale now. I think more chefs are like kind of recommending that.
Yes. For baking, it's definitely a science. Like for cooking, you can like pinch here. You don't really need to follow a recipe. But for the sourdough, if something's off, your sourdough will be off. If it's too cold, like my starter won't grow that day. Like I have to find a warmer spot in the kitchen, so the temperature, like everything affects the rise, the amount of hours that it's fermenting, everything.
Fascinating.
So it took a while for me to get it, but now I can do it like in my sleep. Yeah. And my kids can too. They're great helpers.
I mean, talk about like I'm just I'm expanding your business, because this is where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I would love to probably take a sourdough class or something like that, or just learn like.
Yeah. Like I have definitely gotten requests for that.
Yes.
For do I teach? Do I sell my starter? These are common questions that I get all the time. But at the moment, I just do not have time to teach a class. I would love to. But yeah, at the moment, that's just, I don't have time to teach it. Yeah. But there are a lot of videos out there online. You can watch people doing it.
Yeah.
But, everyone.
But also, I think it's like people have fallen in love with you. Like,
yes.
Because it's not like, yes, you can get sourdough
so
anywhere.
Sweet.
And like, but they love, you can feel the love that you put behind it.
Yeah.
So it's like this like really good energy you're eating also. Like, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, it's so much more than just
true.
like.
I've made new friends, a lot of new friends, and people who just come weekly that want to buy my bread, and their babies love it, and their kids love it, and their grandmas, and it's really sweet. Just the feedback makes me so happy.
And it's interesting. Like I know so for the holidays we had your bread, and some people are not like sourdough lovers.
Yeah.
It's just okay. Like everybody has their thing. But I was just like, just try it. Like it's really good. And they tried it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is not your typical like sourdough.
Yeah.
You get that sourdough flavor, but it's not so strong.
Yeah.
So it's like almost can pass off as just regular bread, or it can pass off as sourdough.
Yeah.
And
so that also affects, if you want more sourdough, you have to leave it in the fridge for a few more days, and then it changes the flavor.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
the whole thing it's like fascinating to me still that you can just make bread. So I guess
like one of my next things would be like people in Europe, or not people in Europe, like people here that have like celiac or maybe that's not the best example, or sensitive to gluten.
Yes.
Right? Can they eat they can eat European bread and they're fine?
Right. So I've had a lot of people from like Russia, European countries asking me to make bread for them, and a lot of them are my customers because they said they cannot eat the bread here because of the flour and all of that. Anyone with a gluten tolerance is doing okay with my bread. Celiac, no. Anyone with celiac, they still cannot, I don't recommend it. Yeah. But most people who have gluten intolerance are doing fine with my bread. And I always, when they message me and they're like, do you do gluten-free? I do not do gluten-free. I have tried to do gluten-free, and to me, it's just, if I'm going to be making sourdough, it doesn't work for me. I'm sure there are some other people that do it, but what I was going to say is people who have gluten intolerance have tried my bread. I always say, just try it and see how you do, and they're doing okay. Not everyone, but some. I always say, you can try it if you want, but celiac, definitely not.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. I want to talk to you more about just this whole juggling everything and building a business, because I don't even actually really know what you did before sourdough. Like, obviously you worked with your husband's.
Yeah.
This is so funny. We
I
never
was
really
home with my kids. Like, I've just been a stay-at-home mom.
Your whole life now? No, you.
Yeah. Well, I went to school for dental hygiene.
Yes.
But I never went back. Once I had kids, I was just home with my kids.
Yeah.
That's what.
And so, like, but when you were like
I didn't work.
Yeah, but so you never really started like a business
Oh,
yourself.
I've never started a business myself. Never. That's
what I was trying to lead to.
I'm sorry.
You're like, I was just trying to like.
I was just like a nothing.
No. I'm like trying to lead into segue.
No, the funny thing is, it's like moms that stay home, sometimes people are like, what do you do all day? Like, it's my favorite. Like, I used to feel like I was like, like I'm like a nothing. Like, because I decided to stay home with my kids and I'm not working and have a nanny. Like, but you don't have to go out to work, like, but it just happened. But yeah, ask me anything.
No.
We're not being recorded, are we?
We're recording.
Oh, we are.
It's all good. No, but it's all live and it's all like this conversation because I love getting into these things of like what is like behind somebody to start a business and to get this going because not everybody's made out for entrepreneurship or whatever. And
yeah, I never knew I could do this, honestly.
And it's nice that it's kind of like fallen into your lap.
It just happened.
Instead of you like also putting a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people put that pressure when they start a business.
Yes.
They're like, I have to make this many sales and I want to do this. And
And my husband runs his own business. So when we met, he had just bought his animal hospital and I see the stress in having your own business and managing your own employees. And it's a really hard job. When I started this, like I had no idea it was going to happen. Like it just happened. Like I wasn't like, I'm going to start my own business. Like it just literally like Instagram happened and like word of mouth, and then it just happened. So yeah,
well, you're leaning into it and you're leaning into the flow. And I love talking about this with people is like that flow. Like if it's meant to be, it will be easy.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so I guess this is meant to be because it is easy, right?
It is
like
easy
you don't have to think
me.
about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to stress about it. You're not worried about the sales. Like thank God you and your husband have this other business.
Yes.
So you're able to like that.
Yeah.
Not focus totally
it's just
on
like Sarah. It's like a plus, it's a bonus. The best feeling is just like really providing like real bread to everybody. When somebody messages me and they're like, it's my bread time, ordering the best part of my day or something, or sending me videos of their kids like running to the brown bag, like it is like the cutest things. Like just I wish I could just like screenshot every conversation that people send me with their feedback. That is like the best feeling more than, the sales. That's just like a plus.
Yeah. That you're really changing people's worlds.
Yes.
And providing.
Yes.
A need.
It's because like I cook everything from scratch every night. I make everything for my family, from soups, from salad dressing, so like everything. And we're enjoying it. But now that other people can enjoy the bread, it's the best feeling.
It's a really like a community thing that you're building.
Yeah.
Here,
we live on, every country lives on bread. It's either pasta, rice, bread.
It's very true.
For every meal.
Yeah. It was fun. Somebody asked me this question the other day. They're like, what would you be able to give up, rice or bread with your meal? Or like, what do you prefer more?
Yeah.
Like, what is like something you could not go without? And so, I mean, obviously, I think I know your answer. But I do feel like bread for me, and maybe it's a cultural thing.
I think so.
But I love bread, and I love I love good bread.
Yes.
Not like I could pass up on like if a roll doesn't look that like it kind of looks.
Me too. Like at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like now when I go out, like nothing tastes like real bread because everything's made with yeast and it has preservatives and what's in it. Like even if you read the labels at any of the supermarkets, there's like 10, 17, 12 ingredients. I mean, they have to because it's on the shelf. But
yeah. And it's fun with the flavor. I'm going to go back into this like mix-ins for a second. I know I'm jumping a little bit because when you talked about like going out to eat dinner, and I just was thinking about like eating it with a meal and everything. And sourdough is more of a savory dough. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you do yes, you do the cinnamon raisin, which is interesting because it's not a typical sourdough.
Cranberry walnut, also the sweet
Yeah,
one.
they're sweeter. But it has a nice balance to it.
Yes.
And again, because it's also not too overpowering with the sourdough flavor.
Yeah.
So for people that are not big sourdough people, but want to eat healthier bread, you know, they can have that also. And so, and I like your different like flavors that you're doing.
Yeah.
So like as we were talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I think a sun-dried tomato type of thing.
I've done a sun-dried
Stop
tomato.
it.
Olive, sun-dried tomato. I did like a rosemary one. I've had every request, and I make it for whoever wants whatever they want.
Oh my gosh, as we're talking, I'm like, my mouth is watering.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be like,
I know.
salivating.
It's so cute. Like, my friends will tell me their kids are like, I want Jade's bread. Like, they'll take out something that they bought and they're like, that's not Jade's bread. Aww. Like, it's so cute. And yeah, it's amazing. So whatever you like, I will make you. Anything you're willing to try. I have a lot of different ideas of flavors. I was thinking like a honey thyme or a cheese one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like people would like the cheese one.
Oh, so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fun. You get to just play and
I
enjoy.
know. And experiment.
And it's fun, like, seeing what's next for you. Like, maybe eventually you do want to do classes, or maybe eventually you do want to just sell your starter, or whatever it may be. And it's really cool to see, like, you just playing.
Yeah.
And as we become adults, we don't play anymore, and we don't play with like our businesses, our purposes. Like, this is a purpose for you. Like, you're really changing people's lives, even though it sounds crazy, but with sourdough.
No, I am.
But you are.
Sure,
like how they're eating, and they're eating better, and you're creating community, and you're creating this excitement in this area about sourdough and connection. And like, oh, you got Jade's bread? I got Jade's bread too. I know her. No, I know her. Like, you know, it's really a fun thing, and it's so special. Yeah. And it's just, you know, it's going to continue and grow, and it's going to be fun to see where you go with all of this.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's just,
I'm so excited. And
so if you could, let's say just for a second, let's just dream for a second. Like, where would you want to go with this? Or do you feel like you're just going to allow yourself to go to the next level of what is meant for you?
I honestly love just baking from my house. Like, my most important thing is my family. So being there for my family is number one. So the fact that I can wake up, bake my breads, have my kids around me, have my husband, my dogs, like my family, the kids are doing homework, I'm making dinner, like whatever is going on, and I'm still running my business and I'm at home. I think I'm going to keep it there for now. I have been approached by some restaurants, some events that like in the community that people want me to get a stand and bake my bread. So if I'm able to do it, I will. So right now I'm just baking in my kitchen with my oven, and we'll see what the next steps are. Yeah. Right. But I'm happy doing it at my house. And, you know, here in Florida, you can bake in your kitchen and sell breads. It's like it's a cottage bakery.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you can make breads and jams from your home and sell them. So it's amazing.
I mean,
it's the best of both worlds.
Oh, so maybe some jams. No, I'm just kidding. To go with the sourdough.
My mother-in-law makes the jams.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I can't thank you enough for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This was so special.
Yes.
And sharing what you were doing, and you know, it's, guys, this is a little different than what I normally talk about, but it isn't, because I talk about business owners. It's just a different type of business, but I think this is just like, I'm so obsessed with this that I want you all to be as much as I am. But
so sweet.
Yeah. So before we go, where can people find you and connect with you and get your breads? I know only if you're local, you guys can get them. So I'm sorry. Maybe one day you will ship them out. I know that'd be hard because it's so fresh.
I know.
But
I have got requests for that, for sure. So Instagram, Boca Sourdough, or Facebook at Boca Sourdough. So that's where, and you just message me on Instagram or Facebook Messenger, and I'll get back to you right away. I take orders, and yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. And before we go, if you can like, subscribe, write a review on the podcast, it really does help. And I appreciate you guys sticking with me every week. I love the feedback. So share this episode with anybody or tag us in it and share your favorite part. And I look forward to seeing you all next week for a whole new episode.